Hey everybody, welcome back to OHKO, a Pokemon VGC podcast. I'm your host, Joe Brown. My usual co-host, Sierra Dawn, is out in the ether doing Valorant things and, I don't know, Valorant terms, but like getting snipes or 360 no-scopes, whatever you do of Valorant, you're hitting your abilities and throwing smoke bombs and whatnot. So Sierra's a little preoccupied. So I am grateful to be joined by two of my good friends, Gabby Snyder and TJ. Now, TJ, you say DiGiacomo. I always say DiGiacomo because I'm just like reading it out. You wanna list it officially how you pronounce your last name?
Yeah, it's DiGiacomo. I don't correct you because I like you, Joe. That's why.
I know, but like I'm just like phonetically DiGiacomo. Like I'm reading it out phonetically.
It's Italian.
Yeah, that's why it sounds more. It sounds more Italian the way I say it than the way you say it.
Have you ever considered Jajangamo or something?
Jajangamo.
My old jobs, I used to be called TJ Digimon, which I always thought was funny.
TJ Giacomo. Oh my gosh, so crazy. But yes, we're joined by Gabby and TJ this week, talking about VGC, what we always love to talk about. And both of you two were in Vancouver a couple of weekends ago, so we're going to start with that experience. And we'll start with you, Gabby. So you used to live in the Pacific Northwest up there, on the American side, obviously. But I imagine you've been to Vancouver a number of times, even outside of Pokemon events. That's my assumption.
No, I've never been to Vancouver outside of a Pokemon event.
Really?
I've been so 3 times.
Though. Okay, so
Worlds
what are your
in
thoughts?
2013. And then 2 regional trips. I love Vancouver. I'm kind of sad I never made it up there more often. The thing about when I was living in Seattle was that I was just so like obsessed with work that I never really did much other than work. And the weekends when my friends like wanted to go on more local vacations, I was always traveling for Pokemon. So it was like, oh yeah, we're going to go hiking. It's like, oh, what's that? I'm going to go sit in a convention center for a weekend and not touch grass. But there's just something really nice about the Pacific Northwest. Maybe not so much this time of year. The seasonal depression really did get me by the end of my tenure there. So reminders of that was not the best, but the people are great. The food was amazing. I love Vancouver regionals because it's also the easiest one for a lot of my old friends to go up and visit. Shout outs to Brian. I doubt he listens to this podcast as he was there playing TCG, but he was there as he was a member of my old orchestra in Seattle, and he actually sought me out. It was like, I knew you'd be here, and I started crying a little bit. I was so happy. So yeah, it's just good. It's good feels. If you are looking for like a more fun sort of trip to take for a regional, I'd recommend it. It's right on the water. Again, the city's beautiful, and it's definitely something a little different if you've never been to the Pacific Northwest or if you've never been to Canada before.
Yeah, I think it's a gorgeous city. I've been, a couple of times, had the pleasure of going, and for me, out on the Northeast, it's a long trip, and you're up in Massachusetts, it's a long trip for you. But let's talk about a conversation with TJ about as physically far in the continental United States away as you can possibly be from Vancouver is Florida to Vancouver. So how on earth did you get there? You might as well go to London at that point, right?
My flight to London was actually shorter. It's not a joke. My flight to London was shorter. I had a direct to London, so that was great. I had a layover for this one where I actually got to see Gabby on my layover.
I forgot about that.
We were actually on the same flight to Vancouver, but we came from opposite ends of the country. That was my first time in Vancouver when the regional schedule got like fully released. I got to see all of them. And when Vancouver was on there, now that I get to go to every event, this was the one I was really excited for because I've never been to Vancouver. I've always wanted to go to Vancouver. I didn't get to go in 2013 for Worlds. Last year I was going to go to the regional, but all the flights were really expensive for some reason. I was like, I'm not spending $800 on a flight to Vancouver. So this was the first time I got to go, and it was awesome. Amazing city, little wet. I think it rained like every single day we were there.
That's the season.
Literally rained every day we were there. But other than that, it was an amazing city. The only other times I've been to Canada, I've been to Montreal once for a job interview, and I was only there for like a day. And I've been to Toronto, like, I don't know how many regionals have been in Toronto, like 6,
quite
7.
Number, yeah.
Been to Toronto quite a lot. So this is my first time like over on the West Coast there, and I'd love to go back. All the food I ate was amazing. The whole city was fantastic. Everyone who's been to Vancouver before me from Pokemon was like, "Oh, you're gonna love it. Make sure to see the Orca statue," which I sought out, which is like right next to the venue. Got a picture of that. The whole place was beautiful, especially where the venue is. Yeah. Like, that is one of the coolest venues we go to, easily.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gabby.
No, I was just gonna ask, like, did you have a chance to try like the seafood and stuff there? Because I find that the seafood in Vancouver is like top tier.
Yes.
No, I didn't get to try the seafood. The first night I was there, I ate at it's like a Japanese place that was like right next to our hotel. Really amazing food. The second night I ate at just the hotel because I just didn't feel like leaving. It was late. And the last night I had the catering. So.
Did you have any poutine?
No, I had some poutine when I was in Toronto.
It's not the same. It's not the same. I'm making a statement. I have actually no idea if it's true or not. I'm just with enough confidence, I feel like I can will it into existence that it's the West Coast and East Coast poutine is not the same thing. I have no idea if that's true. But TJ, you are the subject matter expert on the VG stream, and that's a position that our podcast listeners will be aware, because that's something that I had done a number of times throughout the last couple of seasons, but this year they brought you on as the quote-unquote full-time, full event SME. So how's that experience been going for you this year?
It's been awesome. I never thought I'd be back behind the production line again after the old days, so it brings back a lot of really cool memories from the old days. It's been an awesome experience getting to go to every regional. I was feeling a little burnout by the time Vancouver came by, because I think I've been to every single event, and I've traveled every other weekend since October.
Oh my goodness.
We had Louisville, and then I think it was 3 weeks to Brazil. Immediately flew to California, did Sacramento, 2 weeks Toronto, 2 weeks AGDQ, 2 weeks San Antonio, 2 weeks EUIC, 2 weeks to Vancouver. So I've been traveling almost every other weekend since October. So having like the little month break before Atlanta, I'll be recharged and ready to go for the last 3. But it's been an awesome experience. This has been so cool getting to see like how the stream is made, how much work goes into it. A lot different from back in the old days.
For sure.
But I get to see the only downside is I don't get to see like my professor friends as much as I used to. So I try to show up a little bit early before my call time, say hi to a few people, and then I get to work with you guys at every event. So that's awesome.
Hey, but you know what? At least someone else gets to set the cameras up this time around, TJ.
Yeah,
I know that's
true.
true.
It's not your job, like Critical Hit, setting up the 3 shot. You know?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, that's such a little old Critical Hit inside joke for the long time fans. But Gabby, you were commentating in Vancouver, and I thought you and Scott did a great job. I think you guys crushed it.
Thank you.
I didn't watch any of Saturday, but I watched all of Sunday, and I thought the whole team did a great job. So, what was that experience like commentating in Vancouver? Like, how'd you feel that the matches went? How'd you feel like if you were on your game? Like, give us the insight into commentator Gabby's mindset.
Yeah, well, I kind of wanted to send this one off since this was going to be my last time with Red G behind the mic, since I knew I was competing in Atlanta by that point. And to be honest with you, I was like, back in September was the last time I worked with Scott. It was at Baltimore, and I just wasn't on my A game that weekend. There was a lot of personal stuff going on. I won't get into it. It's boring. But I fixed all of that stuff since then. So I really wanted to go into this event just being like, all right, we're going to smash it. Like, I think I really was able to figure out the kind of style of commentary that works well with Scott. And I found myself being able to like weave into his analysis with like my own analysis while still picking up the play-by-play cues, which was really exciting for me. And it was just, I think we just clicked, which is all you can really ask for at the end of the day. So it felt really good. The games were strange. I'm not going to lie. I don't think I prepared for a lot of the matchups that we ended up getting. Thankfully, there was a lot of Calyrex Ice, which I can just kind of, meander my way through. But I don't think the meta really shaped up like a lot of us were expecting. And especially that finals matchup was just very, very different. And it's exciting from the standpoint that like we had TJ, you were saying like 7 out of 8 people in top 8 were like new faces, had never cut before, which is crazy. Like that is a really cool statistic to have for a Pokemon stream. But at the same time, it was like, oh, I got to be sitting down and figuring out these matchups like during downtime. Otherwise, I'm going to have no idea what to talk about.
Yeah, Vancouver was very strange. I mean, Chuppa, with his tweet that you guys talked about on camera, just hit the nail on the head. Like,
what did he say again?
There's something about this would be like a breakout performance and like a first time winner.
Oh yeah,
something like that. Yeah, and
yeah.
We had a first time winner. Of the top 8, I'm actually looking at the bracket right now. There were 2 players in that top 8 who had topped before. Everybody else was brand new to top 8.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
Yeah, and not only that, like the teams that actually made it to finals. I mean, the other teams in the top 8, like I felt like were just kind of iterations on stuff we had seen before. You could kind of look at them and be like, okay, well, I can see where they got these pieces and they took from this and they put this in there. But like Bezod's team, where it had the Lunala and the Indeedee, and then you sort of had like the Tang core beside that with the Landorus, the Urshifu, the Ogerpon, and the Roaring Moon. And then you had Alejandro's, quite frankly, Global Challenge team that just absolutely destroyed and got into finals. Like, I don't know how he did that. I wish I had the secret sauce because, again, just completely caught by surprise. And it really goes to show just how great these trainers were at adapting to what a lot of people thought was a pretty stale meta.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point, Gabby, on specifically with Bezod's team. And it's something that Stefan and I talked about on the podcast last week about this, like calling it the Tang core, right?
Yeah.
Like from the Tang gang of Landorus Incarnate or Shifu, Ogerpon Hearthflame, and Roaring Moon. And like they just have really strong offensive synergy together. And so it's like Bezod kind of took like the Tang core and put a Psy Spam, quote unquote Psy Spam core with Lunala and Indeedee female into it. And I wonder if that is how the rest of Reg G is going to progress, if we're just going to start putting like kind of cores together in groups instead of making cohesive squads of 6, if that makes sense to me. Not that his team wasn't cohesive, but there is like a very clear delineation, like there's these 2 and these 4, and they kind of overlap a little bit. It's not like a full team of interchangeable 6 Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, it just depends on how much time people want to put into it. I mean, it's like literally just Atlanta in North America. There's Stockholm in EU. I believe there's one more in LATAM and in Oceania as well. Like, do you want...
There's a global challenge as well, I think.
Yeah, I don't think you can build a team for a global challenge that can do well at a regional unless you're Alejandro or Wolf, apparently. And I'm speaking from genuine experience. Like, if you can do it, more power to you. But I just think that you need different tools in different tournaments, especially with open team sheet. Like, there's a lot of surprises you can bring, like in Prison on Calyrex Ice Rider that just worked better in closed team sheet. But anyways, I'm just not convinced that a lot of people are going to want to build going into Atlanta and these final regionals. I think that if you have a cool idea, now's the time to try it. And I feel like Bezod was someone who, if memory serves correct, they've tried a different restricted Pokemon at like every regional championship so far this year. And I think that was just kind of like their thing. And, more power to them. And he really built a cool team for that. But at the same time, if you have some people just trying to grind out their Worlds invite, trying to grind out ace trainer status, like I think it's okay to phone this one in personally. Like I feel like the creative juices are going to be flowing a lot more once we get confirmation on what this Regulation I is going to be coming up. Just my 2 cents, though. I know some people, like, this might be their last event of the year and they want to cook, and that's fine too, obviously.
Yeah, I definitely have some friends that I've just like been team building with, and they've just decided for the last couple of events, like EUIC onward, it's like, you know what, I'm just gonna run my EUIC team, right? It's
yeah,
like, it's just not worth it at this point. And sure, am I gonna get cooked by a Lunala team that I wasn't expecting, or a hard trick room in prison Callie's team I wasn't expecting? Okay, sure, fine, that's on me. But I feel like they're putting their efforts into what we assume will be the next format, but
or taking a break, which is totally
true.
valid, and respect your mental health.
Well, you're competing in Atlanta, right? So
I know.
So how has that process been for you? Because I know we've team built together before. Like you love playing the game. You don't get the opportunity as much because you're always casting.
I know. Well, I need help.
I got you.
This is a call for help. This is a cry for help. This is a scream for help. I was joking about it on my Blue Sky the other day. That point in It's Always Sunny where Charlie Day is like, let's talk about the mail, and he has like all the strings and he just goes full on conspiracy theorist. I feel like that's my brain right now. And Chalky too. Like, we've been going through this together, which is great. I love that I can share this crazy with my husband. We're both losing our minds. It's great. But we've been sort of bouncing back and forth between trying to innovate on a hard trick room team that he's brought to several events now and gotten points at. Like, he set a goal for 100 points this year just to prove that he's still in it. Because obviously our priority now for me is casting, and for him it's being a professor. But now it's like with the ace trainer thing, it's like, oh, well, if we get 200 points, then you get a cool shiny card. So he has a hard trick room team with Calyrex Ice Rider and Blood Moon Ursaluna that does really well in GCs. I've gotten 40, hopefully soon 60 points off of GCs with it. Same thing with him. And we're trying to decide, do we update that? I've been playing around with the Tang team myself because I think it's really interesting. I love the fact that it's a tail room team, Tailwind and Trick Room. I've been trying the Oliver Escalin Kyogre team as of late because someone was telling me like, oh yeah, you're really good at those teams. And I'm like, am I?
Well, you did Top Cut two regionals with Kingdra and Rain,
Yeah, but that was before Galarian Weezing apparently is on every single team. And
I just say you are the Kingdra queen.
Oh,
so.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But no, it's been interesting kind of getting back into the swing of it. I definitely am spending a lot of time doing mindless laddering, and I need to do more like active practice. But the nice thing about mindless laddering, shout outs to, and I want to get this person's name right because they built a really cool tool. Okay. I think it's Bauer Dad who built the Palkia Academy Showdown reporting spreadsheet. Like being able to just like visualize all the mindless laddering I'm doing and be able to see like, okay, well, these are the matchups that I'm losing versus these are the ones I'm winning, has been really, really helpful. So okay. I'm hoping that by the end of this week, I can kind of shift from just hitting random battle and hoping for the best and seeing where it goes, and getting some like active practice in against the things that I actually have tough matchups with. But we'll see. There's also a global challenge this weekend, and there's also a cheese league this weekend. So yes. I don't really know what we're doing, honestly, in this household.
The cheese league, shout out to Cheese, the one of one, the best out there, the best ever doing Cheese. But that's a good transition into the fact that you guys are both tournament organizers and holding events. So for those who don't know, Gabby's dog Cheese, the coolest dog on the planet.
Aww,
he runs, not Gabby and Chalky, but he presses the buttons on the laptop and runs local tournaments. And then TJ has been running local tournaments down in Florida for quite literally a decade now at this point, celebrating your decade 10-year anniversary earlier this year. So let's dive into that conversation here. We'll start with you, TJ, as what's it like on the back end, not from the production standpoint, but like being a tournament organizer, because I'm sure we have a lot of listeners that maybe passively play VGC and maybe they don't want to become the next regional champion, but they want to stay involved in the community, and like being a TO for your local scene, that's certainly a way to do it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. So I qualified for Worlds in 2016, got the opportunity to play, did not do super great. Was still a great experience. I had an awesome time in San Francisco. Looking forward to when we come back in 2 years. But I didn't really know what to do next. One of our TOs in the area was kind of wanting to retire, kind of calling it, but he stuck around for the Sun and Moon era. I ended up becoming a judge and kind of like organizing some events as well. I ran like one premier challenge and then held on to my professor certificate to staff like NAIC Worlds, like EUIC. I staffed one EUIC before 2020. And when Sword and Shield rolled around, he wanted to call it. He was like, yep, I've been doing this since 2011. I just want to call it. So he took a step back. I kind of took over. Obviously, we all know what happened in 2020. So didn't really get the chance to do that for a while. I did get to staff a couple Players' Cups over the break. So that was cool. But it's a great way to stay involved with your community. One of my favorite things that I'll always remember was I got to see one of my locals actually like cross the bar. Like they got their World's invite at one of my events, and that was awesome. So that was a really cool experience as a TO. That one's always going to be one of my favorites. It's definitely a really cool way to stay involved in your local community, and it's really good if you don't have a community, because you might not know if there's players in your area that want to get into it. Maybe there's a bunch of people who watch the stream at home and they try to find events, but they can't find any because you don't have any TOs in the area. So I've been helping the state of Florida. I believe I'm the longest serving TO for VG in Florida now that Daryl left.
I'd believe
Daryl
There we go.
Obviously moved to Seattle. I think I'm the last one from that original group because it was me, Daryl, and Jason. So I think I'm the last one from that. Oh, Brandon. I forgot about Brandon, but he lives in Georgia now. So yeah, I think I'm like the longest serving TO. So I've been helping like other TOs like set up all throughout the area through the Florida VGC Discord, which I created during the pandemic. And now we have a ton of TOs in the state, and there's so many events. There's more events than players, which is crazy. Where it used to be like we'd have like one event a month, maybe two.
Yeah.
I think you need that though. Like, this is a hot take, and I'm ready to get a little bit of heat for it, honestly. But especially now with the return of the top 75 ranking, like I would love to see people feel like their locals are obtainable, because what else do people have to aim for? Now we know that you get your 200 CP and you can get your ace trainer status, but like if you're someone who can't necessarily travel and you only have like 3 locals, and Mr. Worldwide over here is gonna like win those 3 locals so they can max out on their BFLs and then go off to Worlds, like where does that leave you, kind of thing. I know that it's a little bit controversial. I know that some people think that like, I don't know, your locals should be as hard as a regional in the New England area, maybe. But maybe try having your locals in New England as well.
Yeah, it depends where you come from, right? Like TJ has, he's got Brady, he's got Riley, right? You got a bunch of other
Brady, Riley, Patrick Connors, Gary D'Ortona. We've got a lot of ringers at our events now. Hunter Braum, who just won the Puerto Rico special event.
But then you also have a bunch of events, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have tons of events in Florida, but all of our events are always big. And I'm also of the camp that like, there should be more locals. I think they should play a bigger part, because like back when we had the bar, I don't remember what year it was where the bar was like kind of low, but someone was like, oh, you can get almost your entire invite from locals. And I was like, if you win 6 mid-season showdowns, like win first place, maybe you deserve to be at Worlds. Like,
don't get me started on how difficult the local scene can be, right? I'm playing 70-man 7-round premier challenges on Saturday mornings in 2015, and 6 of the 7 rounds are chalk mirrors, right? Against like 18 worlds qualified players or whatever in my region. Like, I'm used to having a tough local scene, but it helps you grow. Like, if you not that every scene's created equal, but we have heard some of these areas like Northeast and Florida and LA and my tri-state area, like they have really tough local scenes right now. Seattle's got Justin Burns and Alex Underhill topping every event now, right? And Zach Drawcamp's still there, like other great Seattle players. So like it helps you. I think from my perspective, I think it helped me as a newer player that was bad at the game, trying to learn, like kind of seeing Goku in the distance, right? Like seeing what I can become, because these guys are out. They're not off in the world and somewhere else they're succeeding right here. They're from the same place as me. I have the opportunity to battle them, learn from them, and try to get on their level. So I think that's something that we have lost over the last couple of years with our locals, is people having that internal drive to be as good as the best players in their scene.
Yeah, and I really hope the ACE Trainer program sort of reignites that a little bit. I think at least in New England, we have our own invitational that Chalky actually set up. That's going to be happening this summer. You need 100 championship points to qualify. Or there's other routes to qualify as well. So like if you were mostly staffing throughout the year, for example, and you wanted to compete, chances are you could just show up and compete. And I think that actually inspired a lot of people to come out and play, which is pretty cool. I would love to see like locals celebrate trainers when they cross the 200 CP threshold, if that's something that they can accomplish, kind of like how we used to celebrate, oh my god, you got your Worlds invite, yay! Yep. Because I think those are the things that you kind of need from locals in order to feel successful at VGC. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just entering events for fun nowadays. Like, I do think that you have to be made of something a little bit different today to be in that top 75 grind. I think it is a lot harder than it used to be. But it also used to be less than 75, so maybe not. I don't know.
It's a tough balancing act, right? Yeah. 'Cause the player base has obviously increased in skill over time, but also like people that were good back then that we have seen are still good today, right? As with Riley and Wolf and Chuppa and James Beck and all these other people that were good a decade ago are still good now today. So like back when the bar was the top 40 people in NA or whatever, like, well, you were still facing the top players. A lot of them are still in the top 75 today. So it's a tough call. But I do need advice from the two of you here, because I'm getting into the TO scene with my company. So for those who don't know, as I've mentioned a couple times on the podcast, but I've moved recently to Rochester, New York, to work for a company called We the Hobby as a live streaming host on Whatnot and opening packs and things like that. So I'll have more information about that on social media. I think actually as this podcast goes live, I've already started my first day on stream, and the day this goes live, it will be 6 p.m. will be my second day, whatever. I'll have stuff on social media to tell you about it. But regardless, I passed the VG and TCG basic judge test, okay? We're going to try to take the basic TO test as well. I need advice from you guys because we have pre-release events. Like we have at the We the Hobby store, we have a Journey Together pre-release event this week, and we want to run VGC events, and we want to do all these things, but like I'm kind of starting from zero here. So I need advice from two veteran organizers, and the two of you, like what should I focus on? What should I try to learn? And how do I make these events? How can we make them a success?
You want to go first, TJ?
So I think one of the things that, because back when I started doing this, we were lucky to get like 12 players at an event. Our last League Cup was 50 players.
Nice.
My largest event since we came back from COVID was 64 Masters. We were one away from the 7th round. I was very sad we didn't get the 7th round. All the employees at the store were thrilled. but because they wanted to go home at the time that the store closed. I wanted the extra round, but I think a lot of it comes down to like, because I've heard players talk about like my events like in the state, and I'm one of those TOs that's like, yeah, I will go to your event over like a different one if it's closer because I like the way that you run things. Obviously, I have a very well-produced broadcast at all of my events, which is sort of like a hook that players will want to get to. We actually, before at the start of each show, we actually run a graphic that shows the championship port leaderboard for Florida. So it's actually a very funny meme for players to try to get on that graphic. I didn't think it would be that big of a thing in the Discord. It was actually huge. So kind of crazy. But it's those little things that you do that you just don't think like, oh, like this would get players to your events. But it's those like little things you do. And I learned a lot about being a TO from being a player, because I would see like what TOs do, and I'm like, okay, well, why are we doing it that way? Like, this is how players want it to be done. So you learn things as a player, and it really helps playing in events. One of the downsides of me being the SME now is that I don't get to play in a regional, and I would try to play in at least one every year. So if I want to play in one, I have to go to Europe or LATAM or Australia. Two of those are, all three of them are pretty far. So maybe next year I'll make my way out to a European regional and play in one. But as a player, you get to see like, okay, like why are they doing it this way? Why are they doing it? Like you get to learn things like, how can I adapt what these guys are doing to my events? One of the things that I did was online registration. Like everybody loves that. Everybody for my events, we fill out. You can still bring a paper team sheet to my event if you want to. I just have to manually put it in. But I have like a link. You can fill out a jot form, and I'll have your team sheet printed for you by the time you get there. You don't have to do anything else. It's just like, I mean, it's not Arcanine, but it's close. It's kind of like its own thing, but it's those like little things that you do that kind of like make your community want to come back. Like that's like the big thing is like the player attention. A lot of my players will, I see the same people at all of my events. So it's like kind of a balancing act. Like what can I do to make my events better? And then you just try to like look at it from like a player standpoint. Like if I were playing in my event, what would I want?
Okay. Yeah, and this is something I wish I could pick Chalky's brain on, because I feel like out of the two of us, he's the people person and I'm like the logistics person. So like when we started Cheese League, we just wanted to give people an easy way to get points, and easy as in like it's close by, it's accessible, it's not like $50 to enter. Obviously, the player pool makes that a little bit of an oxymoron, of course. And I think that especially nowadays, finding a place that's accessible and welcoming to everybody has been really important in our community. And I think that one thing that has our players coming back is the fact that, you know, we do try to be accommodating for everybody. You know, if someone pings on Discord, hey, I'm going to be 10 minutes late, the bus is running late, like, you know, we hold the tournament for them if we can. And I think it's those little things like TJ was saying that really do make the difference. I will say that unfortunately, because of the location that we picked for Cheese League, it's an amazing like little card shop. It's queer owned. It's inclusive as anything. I love it so much. There's a huge space limitation though that comes with it, which is a little bit frustrating at times. I'm sure. But you know, we do our best.
So how do you deal with the space? Because I think we also have a maximum size that occupancy we can have within our store.
Yeah, so we have a hard cap of 32 players at our store. We could go into the basement and like get up to 64, I think, but we tried that once and people said it was really depressing down there, and then we were like, okay, yeah, no more basement. Done. So we actually have signups on Limitless, because Limitless lets you have a visible wait list. so people can actually see where they are on the wait list. And if somebody canceled, they just get notified automatically. It's not something we have to manage, which is really nice. And we will have people show up day of occasionally and be like, hey, can I play? And if someone just doesn't show up last minute, or if we can accommodate the space, sometimes we'll let them in. But we actually haven't hit cap a lot recently. I think people are just done with Regulation G, honestly. So I think it's little things like that make a difference. I also think that a lot of time at Cheese League we spend helping not just new players but new judges or new TOs. I think we're kind of like the training league, if you will. We've had a lot of new TOs come through, and we've helped out, them just learn the ropes. Here's how to run Tom. Here's how to do this. Here's how to do that. And I think sort of investing in the community like that kind of helps people kind of come back to you too. The only other thing I would add is, I know TJ's mentioned the Florida Discord in this conversation. There's a New England Discord that is very poppin'. If there is a like tri-state Discord or something, definitely join that if you can. If you're looking to host, if you're looking to join events, I wish the event finder worked better on the Pokemon website, but I think at the end of the day, unfortunately, Discord is our best tool. And that's just what it is.
Yeah, it is a bummer and feels like a consistent complaint for about a decade about the event finder, but it'd be like that sometimes. As
Sierra, be like that,
as Sierra would say, it'd be like that sometimes. Now, I wonder like other things, because I remember, I come from that New York, New Jersey scene, and Jen running all those amazing events, and leading the charge as a TO, and like I wonder things like how, because it's not just that there's more bodies in that area of available players, right? There's certain reasons, like you said, TJ, you run into the same guys. They always come back to your events because they respect you as a TO. They know you're going to put on a quality event that runs on time and stuff. Like, but do you ever do like kind of incentive things? Like if we reach the cap of 32 players at Cheese Cup, we give like I don't know, a free gift card, or like the winner of the event wins a free plushie or something like that. Like, are there ever incentive based things as a TO, or is that murky?
Yeah, I do that. So like I said, our first League Cup back, which they were called mid-season showdowns back then. Our first one back, we had 64 players, 64 masters. I think it was like 66 players. We had like 2 juniors. So masters just missed the cutoff for the 7th round of Swiss. That is to this day the largest non-regional like League Cup in the state for VGC. TCG, it's like way higher. It's like 200 players or something.
Yeah.
So for every League Cup, starting with the one in January, because that's where the Florida VGC Twitch channel kicked off their 10-year anniversary, because I've been actually streaming VGC for 10 years now, minus the pandemic years. But ever since we kicked that off, every League Cup I'm personally throwing an extra 100 in the pool. And if we break the 64 player record and get the 7th round of Swiss, I'll toss another 100 in. So we were 50 players for our last League Cup. So hopefully the one that we're hosting, which should be before Portland, that one I'm hoping will finally break that. So I'm hoping a lot of players will come out for that, because it might be the last local of the season before we go into NAIC. It'll be players' last chance to practice for NAIC, practice for Portland if they're going to Portland. I don't know how many of my locals are going to Portland. It's not a cheap flight for them to get to. It's very, very far from Florida. But I've started doing that, and that's going to carry forward for my League Cups moving forward, because it gets people out. There were players from Georgia that came to that League Cup. There were players from Miami that came to that League Cup, players from Naples that came to that. There are players that drove like 6 hours to go to that League Cup. So that's going to stick around. So like incentives help, but you don't want all of the incentives. Like, we didn't hit the 65 players, so I didn't kick in the extra 100. So you can't just, kick it in if you don't hit it. So you got to give the incentive, come back and try again,
Yeah, we don't really do much prizing for Cheese League. Again, we try to keep the entry costs down. So it's a $5 entry fee, and most of that goes to paying the venue and then paying staff. That being said, I have a shopping problem at Pokemon events, and I use that to fund the prize bin. And occasionally, so what the prize bin is that if you get first or second place, you get a prize bin pick. First place gets first pick, second place gets second. And after EUIC, obviously, I bought a lot of stuff. There's things in there that I meant to purchase, but for the bin, but also did not mean to purchase. And then also sometimes I am hashtag sponsored, not sponsored by Power A, and they sent us a bunch of controllers. I have to do a social media post. So I have like, I'm not kidding.
That's
like
a cool
8 controllers that are going into the prize bin for Cheese Leagues coming up soon. So
for our audio listeners, Gabby held up a Evolution's Nintendo Switch Pro controller. Which was pretty cool.
I will say OHKO is not sponsored by Power A. I think I am at this point, but I don't actually know. So thank you, Power A, for the questionable sponsorship.
There you go. Shout outs to them.
But yeah, I find that if we keep it random like this, it just keeps it kind of fun and interesting. But also, like, I don't really want people coming to Cheese League to like grind out, their money cash pot or whatever. That we have some other venues and some other tournaments that I think are better suited for that. The fact that we have a hard cap, I think, just really makes it very difficult to sort of have that as an incentive, because like, even if we did offer, like half goes to venue, half goes to like prizing, you'd still only walk away with like $50, which just is like, is it worth it at that point? I don't know. I mean, it's better than nothing, sure. And I'm sure somebody would be like, yeah, that's totally worth it. But then I think the prize bin just adds a little bit of like mystery to it. So
yeah.
What does the prize bin look like? Because I like this idea.
It is a green Tupperware container.
Nice.
And now the mystery is dead.
Yeah, because I also have a shopping problem at these events, and my fiance is like, we have too many plushes, and I go,
I feel that.
We do. So the prize bin is a good idea. Maybe
it's a fine line for sure. I definitely try to only get stuff that I think players will want. And if something's in the prize bin for too long, I find other ways to like, donate it or otherwise get it to somebody who would actually use it. I think the most heartwarming stories from the prize bin have been so TJ and Joe, you know this too. So occasionally, like when working an event, if there's leftover like swag, we'll get it. And we've gotten competitor bags before from like specifically from LA regionals. I think, when was that? Last year? 2 years ago?
That was my first one as SME. That was the last regional of the year.
Last May. So as you may recall, Montana Mott won that regional, and his partner Zach won a Cheese League. And for his prize bin pick, he was able to pick the LA competitor bag because he was unable to attend that regional. And he was like, oh, I'm so excited. This is the one that Montana won. And it was just like really sweet kind of thing. So it's a nice way to like provide those opportunities if somebody can't necessarily travel to events too. But I will say it's very easy for the prize bin to go stale because everybody's like, oh, well, I already have this playmat with Maridon on it because I've been to 3 regionals this year. Yeah. And it's like, okay, great.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me. Remember, Gabby, when we played? Oh, what event was that? Was it Peoria or I think it was one of Vince's TO'd events where he did like the ring toss thing. And like we were winning, but every prize was Mega Blastoise.
Yep. Like I have one of those back there.
So it was like me, you, and another cast. I can't remember, but like all of us won. And we all got the same Mega Blastoise plush, and I think we just like gave it to a kid or something. It's like, no, we don't all need the same plushie, So I can see how that gets a little tiresome, winning the same event or same prizes over and over again. But that's maybe switch it up, a little Poke Center action,
maybe
like a pin or something.
I think the next prize bin clear out is gonna probably end up being donated to the PAX Pokemon League, because I know they're coming by, and I actually can go to PAX this year, which is great. It's a big gaming convention that happens every year in Boston and in Seattle, and there's a group of volunteers who puts on a Pokemon League that weekend. Literally, you bring your Switch, you battle them, you get badges, and they like raffle off a bunch of prizes at the end of the week. And I've donated a bunch of like random regional swag to them in the past, and they've been really receptive to it. So I think I might try and offload some prize pin stuff again and just be like, my players don't want this, please take it.
There we go.
Give it to some child, please.
Now let's change the conversation up here a little bit, because while we have Gabby, who's commentator extraordinaire, VGC veteran, as long as VGC's been around, Gabby's been around playing it, her and Hulk Hogan, right? Let's change it up from VGC caster Gabby Snyder to documentarian superstar Gabby Snyder. Have you seen the latest episode of the documentary?
I skimmed it. Does that count?
You have like a whole section of it is about like you and your experience, and like you as like leading the charge for women in Pokemon commentary and stuff. You're out to lunch with Rosemary and Stefan. It's you and Chalky. There's like a whole thing. You have to go back and watch this, Gabby.
Because I remember that lunch.
Okay, so let's flashback. Get us into that moment. Like, did you just show up and there were cameras? Were you aware this was going to happen? Like, I'm so interested in knowing don't give away trade secrets, but like, tell us the behind the scenes of that situation.
So, as someone who. So I knew we knew that we were showing up to film with Rose and Stefan. Like, it was very obvious. Like, I was in touch with the documentary crew, and they're like, "We want to take you guys to lunch," and I was like, "Free food, great, we're in." It really is that simple. So Chalky and I showed up. We were there early, but they wanted to like get Rose and Stefan like situated first. So like we were just waiting in the like foyer. They mic'd us up. And I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of weird. Like,
it's a different feeling than being like casting on camera.
Yeah,
you're being real on camera compared to casting,
Yeah, and it was just a very unique experience. They mic'd me up a few times for the documentary. I don't think a lot of the footage made it at the end of it. It was mostly like around NAIC and like at events. So like this was really one of the only times that I was mic'd up like in just a completely different environment. And I was going into it thinking that they just like wanted to talk about Rose. So like that's why I was kind of surprised. Like,
no, you get a lot of shine. I don't know if you've watched it, TJ.
I have not watched episode 2 yet.
There's a lot of Gabby praise. It's like Rose has some really nice things about you, like what you've done for the game and your experience and stuff. Like when I was watching, I was like popping off. I was like, let's go.
Yeah, well, I do remember Rose saying those nice things, so I'm glad that they didn't cut those. But no, I at the end of the day, like once it was all said and done, I think Chalky and I were a little sad we couldn't bring cheese. Like,
sure.
I remember when I heard that the crew was going to be in town, we were like, how do we get our dog on this production? But it was still a very unique experience. I think it's great that Rose and Lou and everybody gets to sort of share their stories. I wish that they could have gone deeper. And, obviously there's so many different people involved in the community. And I think that the TCG documentary like took a different approach where it was like, they covered a bunch of people, but they only got like one episode as opposed to like 4 people who they went like really deep into. But I don't know. I'm curious to see the rest of it, honestly. Like, I know what they filmed for some of the other stuff, like, later on, sort of. So, we'll see.
TJ, have you watched the first 2 episodes of the documentary yet, or no?
I watched the first episode because we showed it at Vancouver.
Oh, yeah, they had it playing on the line.
Yeah, so our call time was when the first episode started, so we were all preparing while it's running on all my monitors. So I'm like, okay, I get to watch it here.
Oh, okay. I will say one thing. I want to shout out Rose because they wanted to film her at the Pikachu parade in Yokohama, and she got a +1 to this parade, and she took me.
That's Rose.
It was the most amazing experience of my life. I cried. That's probably why they couldn't use the footage, because I was sobbing like a baby the entire time. I don't know where this footage is, but I would be okay if this footage was released. Just saying. She did not have to do that. Like, I think they wanted some like cute couple video pictures or whatever, or maybe her and Lou there, but the fact that she took me, knowing how important it was to me to go to that parade, was just like really special. So yeah, that was awesome. Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't get to go to the Pikachu parade in Japan. No. I was working the event.
Yeah, that was the downside to working the event.
Yeah. I think my fiance got to see it. So she got to do all the cool stuff at World. I judged VG that weekend.
I think one of my favorite things so far with the first 2 episodes, and I believe episode 3 is going to release on Friday, is that in the first episode, there's just like a millisecond where Rosemary is sitting next to me because I was the SME in Japan, so I was the one backstage, and it's just like a frame of her next to me, and I screenshot it and I put like the SpongeBob meme of like him pointing that he's on. And I was like, "Look, Mom, I'm on TV." And it was funny because Marcos Moxie Boosted, apparently he also did the same exact meme, and I didn't know. And I was like, "Oh my god, people are gonna think I like copied Marcos," but also this is like the simplest, meme of all time. Like everybody has done it. And so I got a lot of traction out of like just being there for a half of a frame. And then with our OHKO Discord community, it was funny because in episode 2, I get like an actual full line, and like I'm on from when Wolf won Orlando, and like I'm on camera and I'm interviewing Wolf and everything, and I'm like, let's go, like I actually made it this time. And then Sierra is just behind Rosemary in a shot. so someone in our Discord posted SpongeBob meme with Sierra. So it's like both episodes we both got like Mike Wazowski essentially, like we're just kind of in the background of it. But like, it was actually cool to like, it was a cool feeling to like go back and reminisce on Orlando, which obviously was an iconic event for multiple reasons that we don't need to get into, but to be like to see myself on camera there, like in this documentary that presumably hundreds of thousands of people are gonna see, like that's a different feeling than people watching you commentate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's so weird. I don't know if this is weird to say. I know you're not supposed to read the comments, but I will admit I read the comments on episode 2.
Wait, so you didn't even watch the video, but you read the comments?
Yeah, because I hate myself. Gabby, obviously.
No. You have to hate yourself after watching the video.
Oh, no. But it was the weirdest thing. Somebody actually wrote this really nice comment about me. I mean, obviously there was a lot of sympathy for Rose, and I think that was what I wanted to see most of, because I knew this was the episode where she talks about some of her family history. And I mean, as her friend, like, I can't imagine being in that kind of position and just sharing that with the world.
Yeah.
So I was really worried for her. But then this person was like, I remember when Gabby started, like, she used to get bullied. Like, it's great that she's still here and she's gotten better and stuff. And I was just like, yeah, I did get bullied. And yeah, it is great to still be here. And like, I think overall the reception has been pretty positive. And I'm glad that people are getting memes out of it too. Like, I don't know, having been in it, I think it's good that we're all sort of laughing in a positive way. But also, like, I'm glad that people are also taking it seriously when it needs to be serious, I guess.
No, yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. I think it's very inspiring, Rose's story that she, reveals in the documentary. And like, yeah, I was emotional watching. Like, it's a very heavy conversation to put into a Pokemon event, right? And to show her perseverance and everything to overcome to where she is now. Is I think the documentary team is doing a great job so far. So like we said, episode 3, it's going to focus on Hawaii. On Worlds, should be releasing this Friday. My last note on this, you guys will appreciate this because you guys are a part of our behind the scenes, with the production crew. So our good friend James, who works for Paperweight.
Oh no, he's gonna kill you.
I texted him, and so he, in the first episode, he gets like major shine. Like he gets a lower third. He gets like a whole 10 seconds of positive, like you're the greatest, and you're gonna influence, you're gonna change the world, and you're about like he has this like really positive speech about like impacting the community and blah blah blah. And so I forget what I texted him, but I was like, "How's it feel to be a superstar or something?" And he was like, "If one more person texts me that exact." So he must have got messages from like 20 people. It's like,
and in person.
Yeah.
And in person. It was really funny, actually. I was laughing.
It's so awesome. James is the best. So obviously we're kidding around with him, but it was cool. If you get your own lower third, I didn't get a lower third. You know what I mean? So,
well, we just saw the back of your head. That's why. Would you want the lower third to say like the back of Joe Brown's head?
That's fair.
That would
That's
actually
fair.
be funny.
That's fair.
That would be really funny.
Next documentary. All right, let's move on. We have to the documentary. Let's give TJ some shine here. Let's talk about TJ's extracurricular activities, non-Pokemon. I guess still kind of Pokemon related with your speedrunning, right? So you talked earlier that you went to AGDQ, Awesome Games Done Quick. For those who aren't familiar, it's a massive speedrunning charity organization and event that does a billion streams throughout the year and donates to charity. And you've been very much attached to it the last couple of seasons. I know you and I for years have always talked about our love for GDQ and those streams and stuff. You've actually been able to go the last couple of years and like participate, be on the couch, be a part of the production team and stuff. So like let's dive into that speed running world. Because I think not a lot of our listeners would know you outside of Pokemon, like that you have this huge speed running passion and an interest. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, during the pandemic, I got into speedrunning. The first game I picked up was Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. That is still my favorite speed game to this day. Etchy actually ran it at HGDQ this year. We showed off a category that was not shown off the last time it was on the GDQ stage, which was really cool. We did some really cool stuff. Awesome run. Unfortunately, the run died at Lance, which was very fitting because Etchy has been on world record pace, I believe, for 3 months straight and died to Lance almost every time. Wow. So very fitting that Lance ended the run. But I got to meet a lot of the people in the Pokemon speedrunning community. All of them are awesome. Every person I've met through GDQ speedrunning is awesome. And I got to be a part of some really crazy moments in Pokemon speedrunning. The release of BDSP, not Sword and Shield, Scarlet and Violet releasing, Legends Arceus releasing, still speedrun to this day. I haven't streamed in a while because I don't have a lot of time. Not home very often. But it is really cool to be on a plane and finish an entire game before you land. Scarlet Violet's a really fun speedrun. I held the world record for that physical cartridge for like a couple days. Got beaten.
Nice.
So, whatever. I held Shield too for a few. I held Shield for like, I think I had Shield for like 4 months or something like that, and it got beaten. So that was cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I've got to work behind the scenes at GDQ. I got to volunteer to actually help put the stream together, like be stream tech, running the actual like switching scenes and going from like interstitials or like hold screen back to the stage for the next run, setting those up, doing all the graphics for that. It's a lot of fun. And I get to go. I've been to the last 4 GDQs. SGDQ, AGDQ, SGDQ, AGDQ. Yeah, last 4. So I'll be probably booking my flight here in a little bit. I think registration opens on the 31st. And a lot of the speedrunning people are also VGC fans. So they like watch our broadcasts.
Okay.
They know you guys. I've had your names have been brought up in conversations.
Let's go.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Well, I know Pulse Effects has played VGC, right?
Yeah, I've met Pulse a couple times, but I didn't realize like VGC was big. I guess.
A lot of them play on the side. Ecchi has also turned a lot of them into TCG players. For those that didn't watch Cardboard Clash, which was an amazing production. A lot of them watch VGC, play VGC. I know there's a couple of them going to, I think it's Milwaukee.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Some of them are going to Milwaukee because they live up in that area. So I'll get to say hi to a few people that I only get to see at GDQ. So it's really cool experience. GDQ is a really cool experience. If you've never been, I highly recommend going. My fiance went to her first one. AGDQ. So she went to her first one a few months ago, and it was not what she thought it was. Very different experience. She's like, I can't wait to go back. It was so cool.
I think some of the coolest moments with the GDQs, like obviously they're donating millions and millions of dollars for charity, so it's like it's a good cause, to support. But like when you're watching, a lot of times, like I've texted you, like we look at the schedule, like okay, I want to watch this, or whatever. But like some of the most enjoyable runs or like times watching are games that you don't actually care about. You know what I mean?
Oh,
we
yeah.
just were for like the Pepsi Man game or like all these other like the Dolphin, whatever that Dolphin game was that Echo that everybody loves. Like so, like you get to open your horizons to other games. Like I don't know if you or have much experience watching the streams, Gabby. You ever watched the Game Zone Quick events?
So, first of all, don't get me started on Pepsi Man lore. It actually directly connects to one of my favorite visual novels of all time. Fun fact. Okay. No, I've been watching GDQ for years. Okay. It is just on constantly in our household when the week is on. I've actually been really wanting to get involved with like donation reading and hosting with them. I just haven't had a chance to figure it out.
TJ knows people.
I was gonna ping TJ about this later.
Yes,
I don't want to put him on the spot when you're recording.
If you're listening, GDQ, we need Gabby hosting and donation reading because you would crush that.
I think it's a really good cause. I think it's a lot of fun, and I just find it super entertaining to like break video games. Like we can't really do this in the context of VGC because unfortunately it would be cheating. I'm just gonna say it. You use a glitch, it's probably cheating. But 5-year-old Gabby loved to do the missing no glitch or whatever. That was some great fun. So it's just cool to see like what creative ways people can come up with to beat video games quickly. If like my favorite speedrun of all time is probably the Breath of the Wild Any%, where they literally just yeet themselves on a tree into Ganon's castle and then just go beat him up. It's just that easy.
It's so crazy.
It's so good.
It's I love some of the creative minds behind like why we do very specific things in a run. Scarlet Violet is a very funny speedrun.
It's the movement tech that gets me. Like I don't understand how people routed that. Like, it just blows my mind.
It was a very long process. I was there for when it was being made. Very long, changed multiple times in the same week. I remember when we found Flamigo. I can't remember who. I think it was Halkery who found Flamigo, but we found Flamigo and we're like, oh my god, this thing's crazy. We just were so like so enamored with like how good it was. It just learned everything. We like run around the region picking up a ton of candies, power level it to like level 75, and then just steamroll the entire game with it. We also don't one of my favorite things to show off in that game, and I got to tell one of the producers backstage about this because they have speedrun the game, at least the first part of it, so we could get it in a different language for a player once or twice. They did not know that you can actually lose every single fight to Nimona. We did not beat Nimona a single time until the final fight. Or we beat her the first time because it's faster, but every other fight against Nimona, you just menu to nothing but Lechonk and then just lose.
That's so funny.
Saves, you never have to watch the terrestrialization animation from her. It's great. It saves so much time. And that's why we pick Fuecoco. I remember when the Fuecoco thing happens, we picked Fuecoco specifically because it can beat Katie, we do 5th at a very low level. And on the 5th gym, you're forced into Nimona right after. You don't have any time to save. Yep. You can't change the venue. So the 5th time, she's like level like 50 or something, and she just one-shots your like level 20 Fuecoco.
Yeah, nice.
And with the level 20 Fuecoco, one-shots every one of Katie's Pokemon.
That's Scarlet Valley.
That's why we pick Fuecoco.
Right there.
Yep, that's why we pick it. It's great.
Now, Gabby, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've done what I call a dirty speed run of Scarlet and Violet.
I was going to ask if you sped run.
Yeah, I cheat. And not like literally cheat, but I just don't have the patience to learn the movement tech. So every time I need to get like another, Maridon or Maridon or whatever, what I end up doing is I get to the Flamigo and then I just trade it over and I level it up with my fully item printed, lovely full file, and then trade it back and then continue. It's fun. I just think it's really neat. And like, I've done the speed run for Galarian Star Tournament before, not all in one go, mind you. You actually sent me the guide for how to do it.
Yes, I did.
And it's
shout outs to 4th Gen Gamer for that one.
Yeah, it's just fun. I wish that speedrunners didn't eat their legendaries. I will happily take donations, but it's just a fun way to re-experience Pokemon games.
Now, Gabby,
I've streamed the Galarian speedrun tournament. It's on my YouTube. I think it's on the leaderboard at speedrun.com. Okay. So you can see that one. 7 hours 37 minutes, I think, was my time. And it's a really cool run. You get everything in the run. You get Shadow Rider, Calyrex. You get all the legendaries except for Kubfu. It's faster to release Kubfu.
And that's where you're wrong.
Crazy.
It's way faster.
And that's where you're wrong.
Well, then we get to do the Tower of Waters with a level 70 Suicune instead of...
Just trade it to me.
So if there was one game, because I've also done, speed running, little dabbled in Pokemon and some other areas too. Gabby, if there was one game that you could have the speedrunning world record on, it could just never be beat. Like you were Gabby, that's the blank world record holder. What would that game be?
It's funny. I think it would be Sword or Shield, which is not the answer I would have expected to give, but I think they're really fun games. And I was actually just talking about this with somebody the other day. Like Hop's storyline, especially post game, is something that really resonates with me. He's the one who basically realizes, oh shoot, I can't be a champion trainer. My life is over. And then he gets beat up by some guys with really bad hair. And then he's like, I'll be a Pokemon professor. And I just really think that's relatable. And I don't think Sword and Shield is the story that I would get sick of. And I think I would enjoy experiencing that like again and again. Like I think Let's Go would be a lot of fun to learn, especially since it is Great one game. Of the easier ones. But I think if I could just like have a crown in something, it would probably be Sword and Shield. I don't think I'll ever be good enough to get a crown in Sword and Shield.
Now, TJ, what about you? Because you played a lot of different Pokemon speedruns, but like you haven't really touched the Elder era, which I feel like those are bigger status symbols, like being the Emerald world record holder. I feel like, I'd be totally wrong, feels like it's a bigger deal than being the Scarlet and Violet world record holder or like the Yellow world record holder. You know what I mean? Like, so what would the one game be that you want to be solidified like that you are the world record holder forever?
Man, I don't know. Because the problem is, then if I'm the world record holder forever, like I'm never going to want to go back, and I want to play. I want to play the game again.
Games. You play other categories.
Yeah, I could, but I'd want to go back to the other one. Like like the person who loves Let's Go and me would be like, oh, it'd be Let's Go, but then I wouldn't want to play Let's Go anymore, and I love Let's Go.
You can always improve your own
It's the best Pokemon game ever made.
Just because no one else
Game Freak is listening, we really want Let's Go Johto. We really want that
Turn
game.
the podcast off, Game Freak. That is not what we want. That is not what we don't listen. What I'm saying is you can improve your own world record. It just means nobody else will beat yours. So you can continue to play Let's Go if you want. It's just you'll always remain in first place. You'll beat your own record.
I don't want to beat it by like a tenth of a second. Like I want to beat it by like, you know.
I'm giving him a prime opportunity, Gabby. He's going to be world record holder forever. And he's talking about
world
a 10th
record holder forever. I don't know. Like there's so many like good games. I would guess like maybe Scarlet Violet, because that's a game. Strangely enough, like it's kind of like died out in speedrunning. Hulk just got like a god tier run, and there's just really nothing. A lot of people. It's on an older version of the game, and it's really nothing a lot of us can do to beat it. But it's a fun game that I'd like to have the record in, because then be like, oh, I have Scarlet Violet, and then I don't have to play Scarlet Violet, or maybe BDSP, because then I never have to play BDSP ever again.
There you go.
That game.
You don't love the faithful remakes? I'm just trolling now.
So many things about BDSP.
Now, here's a follow-up question for you, TJ. So, obviously, you're a VGC player, born and raised through and through. How many speedrunning world records would you need to hold for it to outweigh you being VGC world champion? Like, would you rather be one-time VGC world champion, like 2025 VGC world champion, TJ, or 37 world record speedruns held by, like, what's that scale?
I don't think there's like a scale that would match. I mean, how much money do you win for winning worlds?
I mean, it's not like, it's not Street Fighter. You're not winning $1 million for Capcom Cup.
No,
right?
you're still winning like 50 grand. Like,
I'm just saying.
And a cool trophy of Pikachu holding a trophy.
Like, I don't get a cool trophy if I get a world record. I just get my name on the top of the leaderboard.
If you have 37 of them and you stream, you're going to have thousands of people watching you stream. You're going to make revenue that way.
I guess that's true, yeah. I guess that's true. I don't know how many it would be. Probably a lot. Probably like way more than 37.
What do you mean? You know how hard it is to have 37 world records?
Buddy, like, have you seen some of the leaderboards on speedrun.com? There's like Nintendogs speedruns, and like there's some games that have like one player.
That could be you.
Some games that have no players.
Be the change you wish to be in the world. You could go be You could go be world record holder of Nintendogs or Mario Odyssey.
I actually don't know if Nintendogs has a leaderboard. I actually have no idea if it does.
Or you could do like Pokemon Pinball or something.
What do you say, Gabby?
You could do like Pokemon Pinball. Like, that game is just nonsense. Like, someone linked me to a YouTube video recently of like how to get the rarest spawns in Pokemon Pinball, and I've been actually playing it sort of on the side. This game is nonsense. If I had the world record in that game, I would be glad to never play it again.
That's fair. That's fair.
Right,
it's a great game.
Nintendogs does have a leaderboard. Its world record was actually broken 4 months ago.
See?
Wait.
That could be you.
When is the game over?
Show rules. Time starts when you knock on the door. Time ends when you are back in the home menu after the last contest.
Okay. As long as it's not like the dog, Anyways.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, I would assume it's not that, because the world record is 10 minutes and 49 seconds.
Oh, dear God.
Gosh. Get your mind in a more positive place, all right? We're being positive here with our speedrunning conversation. We don't have to worry about dogs. I think, first of all, you guys are crazy. I think the answer is, I think you very clearly choose a 3D Mario game to be the world record.
Oh, okay, yeah, like, sure.
Iconic. If you're the Mario 64 world record holder forever, that's kind of a big deal.
If we're doing that, then I would pick the first Super Mario.
Yeah.
The first Super Mario Brothers.
That's
NES.
That's a good answer.
Oh,
that's
no,
a good
NES
answer.
all the way. I've seen how like task optimized that game is. If I can execute on that level, heck yeah.
I would execute on that level. You can do anything.
Exactly. I'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Super Metroid is also kind of optimized to that level at this point. That answer. All right, let's quickly get back into VGC, and then we're going to end it with a question of the week. But one last conversation we wanted to have post Vancouver as we wait for Atlanta and the end of Regulation G is Victory Road is always doing their online tournaments, and the last weekend was their March challenge for Victory Road was won by Hiroto Hayasaki, which the name by itself maybe sounds familiar, maybe it doesn't. He beat Shohei Kimura, world champion, in the finals in a mirror match, and we all know Shohei's name, right? And you look at the team, it is the team that won the world championships, the Maridon core. Everybody calls Arubega Maridon or just Arubega Reg G. I don't know, whatever archetype we're calling it, because that's what Hiroto's tag is on Twitter, is Arubega. And this Arubega team that won Worlds and it also won another regional this last 2.0 format. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's winning the March challenge, and it's all over the place. It's definitely the quote-unquote Rinya son of Regulation G, right? Of like, this one guy made this archetype. I know Gabby's very passionate about this team and this conversation, so I want to start with you. How do you feel about this Arubega Maridon team? Is it chalk level? Is it Rinya Sun level? Is it is it winning because it's good, or is it the most well-rounded, the most well-optimized? Like, why is this core of 6 Pokemon continually performing so well?
I think it's just I do think it's Rinya Sun levels. I don't know if it's chalk levels, because I think the game was broken when chalk was a thing, and I don't think the game has been broken to that level since. But I think when Arubega built this team back around, it was like the summer before Worlds, I want to say it kind of came out. Like, he was able to balance, you have Choice Specs Maridon, everybody knows what that does by now. You have Whimsicott with Covert Cloak and Encore and Tailwind and Light Screen to disrupt things. You have Farigarath, you have Iron Hands, like, you have a little bit of everything for everything. And I think that's what Rinya Sun kind of was at the end of its life cycle. And the fact that you have this online tour, I would say it's a fairly stacked online tour. I think a lot of people didn't bother entering because it was, an online tour. There was a lot of prize money involved, but it was not really a deep payout. So that kind of can, people won't enter for that reason. But you end up with like a former world champion and the guy who came up with the team, both running the team in the finals. Like, I think that says something, regardless of who else sort of entered the tournament. And like, even looking at Vancouver, there was a version of this team with Ursaluna over Iron Hands that made top 4. Joe Ugarte has kind of an interesting take on it, where he subs out a few different Pokemon, but still has the Maridon with the choice specs at the end of the day. Like, my personal take on this team, especially seeing it do so well time and time again, is that I think this is the Rinya Sun of this format. I don't think it's necessarily always going to win, but the fact that we did see it do so well yet again just goes to show that, like, for me, this is what I'm the most afraid of going into Atlanta, is somebody who knows this team as well as whatever I'm going to run. I don't know what I'm running yet. And can play it very well, because that would be very, very scary.
Yeah, I think to me, what interests me specifically with this team and why it's so strong, because I remember when I first saw it at Worlds, like, I wasn't, looking at events pre-Worlds, and then obviously Luca Cherubelli wins with it, and Shohei also uses it, and everybody starts using this team, and you just inherently go, okay, well, Maridon and Whimsicott. Okay, well, Maridon's already stupidly fast. Now you have Whimsicott with Tailwind to make it even faster. And Iron Hands, who had fallen off definitely at the beginning of Reg G. People had kind of counted it out, but you're using it on this team to actually have an ability where most of Iron Hand's existence has never used that Cork Drive effectively. And then the big thing was the Electric Seed Farigarath on the squad as well, stopping priority and making it harder to hit defensively. So I think what my one concern when we use naming conventions like this, like, I know I was definitely not the biggest fan of calling every team that had Charizard, Groudon, and Grimmsnarl on it, Rinya Sun. Like, you know, like unless you were literally, unless Rinya Kobayashi was using it, or, you know, it was the exact 6 Pokemon on the team. Like, a lot of people just kept calling everything with a couple of the Mons Rinya Sun. Like, in order to be this Arubega Maridon, like, I feel like the things that stand out to me is, like, it's got to have Whimsicott, it's got to have Ogerpon Hearthflame, and it's got to have Farigiraf. Like, obviously, your Shiku's great, and the Iron Hands is kind of interchangeable, like you said, with the Ursaluna. But I think those are what I would consider it to be Arubega there. And if we're just using Maridon with other good things, like, that just also happen to have Urshifu on the team, like, I don't think it's the same thing, you know?
Yeah, I think I think I'm getting tired and my brain conflated 2 points. So let me just clarify something real quick, if that's okay.
Sure.
So Arubega to me will always be those 6. But I think that those 6 are so good, and we're seeing evidence of that in other teams that are doing well with like inspired by this team. But I don't think that the inspirations are ever going to beat out the original, just because I think that it is just that good of a team. I forgot about how we called like everything Rinya Sun back in the day.
Was
we shouldn't do that. Let's not do that.
It reminds me of I mean, you guys have been around long enough, you'll know. Do you remember the fake PG team?
Oh my
where like the E stood for electric. Like,
fake
this
PG
is not
Lake PG, where you had Lele on the team. Like, oh my god!
I think that was just people trying to do acronyms at that point.
They were trying to make
really
Chalk and Big Six again. They were just trying to make it a thing.
I like calling teams after their creators, though, because I do think that one thing VGC struggles with sometimes is proper attribution.
Sure.
So, like, if you just call the Arubega team, it's like, oh, well, who built it? Oh, Arubega. Oh.
But now he's got pressure. Like, what if he shows up to NAIC, right? Like, or well, I guess it'll be a different format then. Like, once he shows up to Atlanta, you know, obviously it'd be a far flight from Japan, but like, and he wants to use Shadow Rider. Like, I don't know if he can. He's Arubega. He made the Arubega team. Like, he's got to kind of have to rock Maridon for the rest of the format, whether he likes to or not. Like, Rinya, he got top 16 at Worlds in Sword and Shield with his team, like 7 months after he made it.
Then it would be Arubega team 1 and Arubega team 2.
Like, Rinya literally had to use Rinya Sun at Worlds, regardless of if he thought it was the best team or not.
But here's the thing, though. Like, if people take your team and have just as good, if not better, results than you did with the team, like, I would stick with it at that point, personally.
True.
Like, if I built something that somebody grabbed and then won the world championships with, like, done. Like, I'm running that until the format's over. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, that's a huge compliment, I think. And, you know, I think that being a good team builder and being a good battler are 2 different skills.
For sure.
So if you are able to lock into a team for this long of a time, and I do think we've spent a lot more time with Regulation G than we have spent with other metagames in recent years, it does allow you to make up for, like, oh, well, maybe it just takes you a little bit longer to actually get to the level where you are playing as well as Luca Cherubelli did with your team, kind of thing.
TJ, did you ever use a team, like, multiples, like, just like for a 5-month stretch? Because back in the day we had the same format for the whole year, right? It didn't rotate as quickly as you, or were you a guy that liked to rotate through teams and ideas? Because I was always a guy that, like, tried to implement and tried new strategies. I didn't really stick with the same core for a long time. I wanted to learn different strategies.
There's been a couple times when I was a player. 2013 comes to mind. I played almost the same team. I was like developing the team as the season went on. Because in 2013 we didn't switch to Black White 2 till I think it was January. Might have been. Pretty sure it was January.
Yeah.
And the first regional I played in was Orlando. I played the very similar team to a player by the name of Minaj. I know Gabby's definitely going to remember Minaj. I don't know if you will, Joe, but I played a very similar team to what they played at Worlds. And I just swapped out some of the spreads and stuff like that, how the Pokemon were trained differently and all that. And then I kept playing that team as we went on from the season. And then by the time Georgia Regionals rolled around, this was back when it was in Athens, I had switched the Zapdos out to Thundurus T because it did everything I needed to do, and it learned Grass Knot, which the whole problem with my team was Gastrodon. So that's like, I would build on that. And then in 2017, this was sort of the transition year for me from player to professor. I picked up Tommy Coulin's Double Ducks team.
Yeah,
I think I played that for God. I must like cut every single local in the state for like 3 months with that team. I know I won a midseason with it. I think I cut almost every single event in the state with that because that team was so much fun to use.
Oh, another atrociously named team. If it didn't have Golduck on it, it is not a Ducks team. People just call Porygon a duck. It had to also have Golduck on the team. You know what I mean?
I thought Pelipper was the reason it was called Double Ducks.
No, people talking about, well, obviously Pelipper with Set the Rain, but people called Porygon a duck. Did you miss like a whole generation of conversations?
No, I remember when people called Porygon a duck, but I thought it was Double Ducks because of Pelipper and Golduck.
And then right, and then okay, yeah. So Pelipper is not a duck; it's a pelican, whatever. But they're like
a duck.
They're cousins.
It's closer to a duck than Porygon is.
I mean, that was back when everything was either a duck or a horse, and
yes.
I don't want to relive those days personally.
God, Gabby,
all Pokemon are either ducks or horses.
Gabby, you just opened like a portal into the back of my mind has been dormant for half a decade now, and I can never unremember it. I had forgotten it. I put it back in the I'd let it sink down where I bottle everything, all the bad stuff. I let the horse or duck conversation go there, and you just like you put Mentos in a Coke bottle, and you just thanks, I appreciate it.
Happy to help.
All right, yeah. Also, yeah, Tommy also top got 3 ICs with that Double Ducks team. So
yes.
It was
yeah.
really cool.
Team was very, very good. I just used the exact team he used.
Okay, so
no changes.
For our question of the week, for those who, if it's your first time watching the podcast, we always end the podcast with a question from one of our viewers, one of our Discord members. We have a channel in there, so if you ever have any burning questions for Sierra, myself, or any of our guests, ask us in our question of the week tab. Team, do we want to be positive with this question of the week and talk about like potential like a positive conversation, or do we want to be negative? Do you want to talk about things that like we don't like? Because people, I don't like, basically there's like 2 different ways we can go with this question. It's like, what do you think we could do with X or whatever? And maybe you can try to make a positive outcome for it. Or what is something that you don't like playing against? It's a little more specific of a question, but I'm being general. We're going to be up or down here. Glass half full, glass half empty. How are we doing this question of the week?
Well, I could rant about Galarian wheezing probably for about 5 minutes. So
okay, we're glass half empty then. Okay,
oh
cool.
Crap. Okay,
so we're gonna go with Bartlett's question of the week. What is the most boring team to face in Regulation G? And now I don't know if that's going to be your answer or not, but somebody immediately in the Discord talked about Galarian Weezing, and they said, no, Galarian Weezing, that team is based. So they don't even agree that that's a boring team. So that's the question for you two here. What's the most boring team to battle in Reg G?
Well, here's the thing about that I don't like about Galarian Weezing, Dondozo, Tatsugiri teams. They are extremely linear. And if you step off the line, it's going to take you about 20 turns, but eventually you're going to lose. And I think that could be very boring and very frustrating. And in fact, it is very frustrating as someone who's trying to learn, like, you know, the line and the matchup into that team currently. I don't think it necessarily makes it a bad team. I think it's just, you know, as it is, Regulation G is a very linear format. There are ways that you just come up with end game states and you navigate to those states, and that's it. The game's over because you only have one restricted Pokemon, because the margin of error is so slim. I think Galarian Weezing just takes the slim margin of error and just turns it into like a teeny tiny hole. And it's for me, that's it takes the creativity out of it. I think I would personally be very bored playing that team for that reason. As much as I would love, like, as much as I would love to win all the time, I I would probably just get bored and make mistakes, and then I would lose, and then everybody would be sad, including myself. So I like creativity in Pokemon. I like being able to come up with game plans on the fly. And for me, teams that are meant to shut down options or teams that are meant to just be fat don't give me those options. So that would be my answer.
Okay. TJ, what about you?
I think I'm on the same wavelength as Gabby, but for a very different team. So at Indianapolis Regionals, your co-host, I was actually on a little video in between rounds. Your co-host Sierra asked me on the stream, what legendary did I think would win the tournament? And I said Terapagos. I'd like to change my answer time now. Terapagos, I feel like exactly what Gabby was saying about the Galarian Weezing teams. Terapagos teams just kind of do the same thing. Like, you really want to terrestrialize the Terapagos every game. You just want to click Terra Starstorm because it's like the only Pokemon that's good with Stellar. Stellar's not good on any other Pokemon. It's kind of good on like Urshifu and like Chi and Pao and like really niche scenarios, but it's like the only thing that can use Stellar. It's like, I like Terapagos' design. I love the Pokemon. It's really cool. I love like the story behind it. I think it's one of the coolest things added in Scarlet and Violet. Man, our team's built around it boring. They just do the same. You just want to play it. You just want to use Terapagos and terrestrialize it and then Terra Starstorm. And that's like the whole game plan. And when that game plan gets disrupted, suddenly your team doesn't really do what it's supposed to do. Like, it's cool watching players have to play out of that scenario, but like, your game plan is just terrestrialize big legendary, hit the spread move. Like,
I will say,
sorry to anyone who plays the team. That's how I feel personally.
I will say, seeing the Heatran Screamtail variant of Terapagos emerge was cool. Yeah. I think that seeing the initial creativity around the team is exciting. But if we got like 8 rounds of that team versus like just various other restricted Pokemon, I agree. I think I would be really struggling as a commentator to make that entertaining. And I'd probably do my break in case of emergency glass gig where I just say, so how's the weather? And just like, let's talk about literally anything else right now because we've already seen this match play out.
Yeah, it's like 2 Terapagos mirrors too, where you're just like, all right, well, we're gonna click Terra Starstorm.
I'm in TJ's boat here. Yeah. So I was between Terapagos and Zamazenta teams because like some Zamazenta teams are interesting, but like a lot of times those 2 restricted it's people like when I'm playing, like, first of all, I'm already at a disadvantage because I'm trying to make a Zacian team work with the OHKO community, right? I'm already trying to use a worse restricted, but whatever. But hey, I just won a regional, so maybe it's possible. But like Terapagos and Zamazenta teams like are just the epitome of trying not to lose instead of trying to win. And like when you face so many Terapagos on ladder and every team is Terapagos, Incineroar, Urshi, Farigiraf, Fluttermane, or like, I don't know, Raging Boltamungus, or like, it's like every time they click protect 14 times throughout the entire game. They're constantly parting shot, U-turn, pivoting instead of actually trying to go for knockouts. Like it always just feels like you're trying not to lose instead of trying to win with the Terapagos. So it's just so infuriating to face those teams.
Yeah, I think that if it works for your brain, I think more power to you. But I think that's why I like that there's so much diversity in the restricted Pokemon and that you're not like 2015 where you're either playing chalk or you're losing. Like,
yep.
Yeah. The game was broken back then. It's not broken anymore. So like I want to just add that big caveat to my answer, which is like, this is how my brain works. Your brain may work differently. That's perfectly okay.
Yeah, it's the same with me. Like there's some players who play Terapagos and they're just like god tier at it. And like we saw that at NAIC with Aurelian. Like he was really good with Terapagos.
Yeah, they were incredible.
Yeah, it was so good. But sometimes I just watch Terapagos and I'm like, man, this team just does the same thing over and over again. And I think people have kind of picked up on that. I shared some of this before Vancouver. But Terrapagos was actually the most top 8'd legendary the first time around. And
Yeah.
I think it has 2 top 8s this time around. So I think a lot of people have just fallen off the Terrapagos train.
It wasn't winning many events though. I remember Ice Rider and Shadow Rider and
it won 2 regionals. It won 2 majors prior to the Reg G. It was there was probably one European regional and I think one Latin.
Yeah, there's probably like 11 or 12, maybe even more events the first Reg G 1.0. Yeah, so
12. Yeah. 12 exactly.
Not a great success rate for the turtle, but it'd be like that, as they say. Anyway, had to get one more Sierra reference into the pod. That's gonna be it for us this week. Before we head out, obviously have to thank Gabby and TJ so much for being on the podcast with us this week. We'll start with you, TJ. Where can people find you, and also how excited are you for the start of our OHKO Draft League?
Pretty excited for the OHKO Draft League, actually. That's gonna be a lot of fun. It's been a while since I've helped put a draft league document together, so that's gonna be a lot of fun for everybody in the OHKO Discord. That's gonna be super cool. As to where people can find me, you can find me on Discord. I'm at SciJ pretty much everywhere, or Sci_J, because someone likes taking my username from me. I don't know who they are. I hate them, but whoever takes my username from me. You can also find me at twitch.tv /Florida_VGC. We all know who has the Florida VGC account, and maybe one day they'll remember the password. So you can find me there. We're currently celebrating our 10-year anniversary. Florida VGC has been streaming for 10 years. The official 10-year anniversary is in September. So hopefully we can have a League Cup that weekend or something. It depends on how the cards fall. Maybe the first weekend will be a regional or something. I have no idea. So that's 6 months away. So we'll deal with that when we get to 6 months away. But we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary, special graphics package, special everything for 10 years. So you can find me there. You can't find me there, but you can find my work there. So I run that stream. So.
All right, and Gabby?
You can find me over on Blue Sky, GabbySnyder.com. I know that's weird, but that's actually my username. I guess you can also go to GabbySnyder.com and find me. That'll link to all my other socials. I've been trying to only do Blue Sky recently, but you can find me on other sites if you look hard. You can also find me at twitch.tv/SimplyGabby. I'll be streaming Cheese League this weekend. There won't be commentary because our venue doesn't really suit it. But you can also find me at Atlanta Regionals, and if you want to say hi, please do. I will have stickers, and I would love to get to talk to people in the community. Actually, yeah, we do have Cheese League stickers. I need to order more of those, actually. Thanks for the reminder.
I'll have to come out from behind the curtain.
Yeah. But no, it's one of my only chances that I get to actually see people and talk to people at regionals. So if you've ever wanted to say hi, please just say hi. I promise you, if I don't want to talk, I'll just be very polite about it. So don't worry about that. I would love to say hi and chat.
All right, awesome. Thank you two very much. As I mentioned, I'm done training. I'm still learning, still getting through all the processes, but I'm officially starting as on camera this week. So it's We The Hobby _evolution on Whatnot. If you have any interest in buying any packs of upcoming TCG sets, now we have Journeys Together. It is releasing, and Japanese packs also coming on the horizon. You want to buy it in store, I'll rip it right in front of you and it gets shipped to you at home. We have a fun time in stream, fun, entertaining, lovely community as well, so you can see me there. I'll post about it on social media as well, but that's what I'm up to. Hopefully Sierra is getting those kill streaks in Valorant, whatever she's doing. Host is doing a great job over there. She'll be back next week. But thank you, Gabby. Thank you, TJ. Thank you, everybody, for watching. This has been the OHKO Podcast, and we'll see you next week.